Hello and welcome to World News live from Warsaw. I'm Diana Skaya. Security guarantees for Ukraine, additional military support for Kyiv, and emphasizing the need to bolster Europe's eastern flank will sit at the top of a high-level security and defense meeting scheduled for next week in Brussels. This is what leaked documents reveal. Now, it comes as a ceasefire deal between Ukraine and Russia is currently in the works, but leaves many across the European continent wondering how this could actually impact the bloc's overall security architecture. Now, our EU correspondent, Angela Skujins, joins us live from Brussels. Good morning, Angela. Now, what are the major issues to be discussed here at that meeting? And do we have the names of who will attend? And also, Angela, what do we know exactly about these leaked documents? Where is that coming from?
Yes, so the leaked documents come from our sources here in Brussels, and there are, as you said, there are many questions regarding next week's meeting. We know that the 27 EU heads of state will be in Brussels for those talks. They'll be joined by the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. His presence really underscores the importance of these dialogues that are occurring. It's regarding these rapid-fire developments surrounding the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire negotiations being brokered by the US. But what we've seen from these leaked documents is that Ukraine and Europe's security and defense interests are at the top of this docket. They're intertwined, they're interlinked. What these European Council leaders are expected to call on is security guarantees being offered for Ukraine to ensure just and lasting peace is secure there if those negotiations are followed through. The heads of state will also expected to invite the High Representative Kaja Kallas to explore what can be done as part of the common security and defence policy at the European External Action Service. This is the body that oversees the diplomatic arm of the EU. We know as part of this policy framework that peacekeepers can be deployed. But what's particularly interesting here is that the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said as recently as the last 2 weeks that he has no intention of sending Polish soldiers to Ukraine to maintain the efforts. But many here in Brussels see this, inviting the EU to send peacekeepers as a way of not exactly provoking Russia. If Poland did this, it could send a strong message to Russia. So this would be a bit of a softer approach, a bit of a stronger approach from Europe, moreover. But, European security is also expected to be discussed. Those EU heads of states are expected to support the European Union to lobby the heads of the European Investment Bank to spend more on defence, to also loosen some of those fiscal rules so that those countries can tap into their coffers for shoring up their military capabilities. But there is a lot to be seen. We also haven't seen any figures regarding that military package that was promised to Ukraine as early as this week from the EU High Representative Kaja Kallas. So questions remain, but all will be revealed next Thursday at those top-level talks.
A lot of developments there. Thank you so much, Angela Skujins, for joining us from Brussels. In an interview with TVP World about Ukraine peace negotiations, Ukrainian MP Oleksiy Goncharenko said that it's clear that Trump doesn't want Ukraine at the negotiating table. However, he emphasized that the most important factor remains the result.
I think that the most important is your red lines of Ukraine and the peace negotiations with Russia. It's clear that Trump doesn't want to take Ukrainians to the table. He's clear about this. I don't like it, but I don't think it is catastrophic because the most important thing is the result, not sitting at the table. So I think we need to be very clear about our red line, about what it could be unacceptable for us.
According to Bloomberg, Turkey has indicated openness to deploying troops in Ukraine as part of a potential peacekeeping force. Now, Recep Tayyip Erdoğan and Volodymyr Zelensky discussed the issue during the Ukrainian president's trip to Ankara. Now, sources say that Turkey would not contribute to a peacekeeping force unless it's directly involved in consultations about the mission. According to the Irish Examiner newspaper, Ireland and Switzerland are also open to sending their troops to Ukraine following the signing of this peace agreement. Now, Moscow says that Russia is concerned about NATO countries discussing a potential mission and publicly opposed allied troops in Ukraine. Now, the idea of a multinational peacekeeping force has been floated as a potential security guarantee for Ukraine. And while Washington supports the concept, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that such a mission would not include U.S. troops. He also said that the operation should not be led by the United States, but instead by European allies. We should continue what we've been doing for the last 3 years. This comes out of Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski when he was asked about Poland and Japan's support for Ukraine. Now, Sikorski made the statement in an exclusive interview with TVP World in Japan, where he is currently on an official visit that's aimed at strengthening economic cooperation and discussing security.
We should stay the course, strengthen our military capabilities by spending more, thereby reassure Washington that burdens are shared equally, fairly, and stay the course also in our support for Ukraine, so that Russia doesn't benefit from its aggression. Japan is not only our trade partner, but also a big investor in Poland, employing tens of thousands of highly skilled Polish workers. We are open for business. Our prosperity is now comparable on a purchasing power parity. What Lech Wałęsa dreamt of all those years ago has now become a reality. We have built in Poland a second Japan.
On Thursday, the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs, Kaja Kallas, spoke out on recent diplomatic contacts between Russia and the United States. Now, Kallas compared Vladimir Putin to Osama bin Laden and asked whether he, just like Putin, would have been invited to the negotiating table.
The question is why we should give Russia what they want on top of what they have already done. I mean, attacking Ukraine, annexing territory, occupying territory, and now offering something on top of it. I mean, I brought this example once. I mean, consider here in America that after the 9/11, you would have sat down with Osama bin Laden and said that, okay, what else do you want? I mean, it's unimaginable.
President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has announced that the EU and India are exploring a security and defense partnership. Now, during her visit to New Delhi, von der Leyen said the new partnership will be modeled after similar agreements with Japan and South Korea.
And Europe is ready to live up to its responsibility when it comes to security and defense. We will step up our defense spending to ensure that member states have access to the full spectrum of capability that this new reality demands. But we also want to step up cooperation with crucial partners like India. And this is why I can announce that we are exploring a future security and defense partnership with India, in the mold of the partnership we have with Japan and South Korea.
Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk announced large-scale controls and arrests of migrants who have committed crimes in Poland. According to TVN, Poland's private broadcaster, the arrested individuals will be deported from Poland as early as next week. Now, in response about those deportations,
In response to questions about the deportations, Donald Tusk said that the new rule aims to target the worst offenders. The first group of deportees will be primarily sent to Georgia in the coming days. The Polish Prime Minister's remarks come amid rising gang violence in Poland. Data collected from the Polish police indicates that foreign criminal groups are mostly involved in drug and arms trafficking, as well as extortion. Polish Interior Minister Tomasz Siemoniak recently stated that since the beginning of 2025, 2,616 foreign nationals have been charged with criminal offenses, with the majority being Georgian and Ukrainian nationals.
Moving on to Germany, where the country's Christian Democrat conservatives, who came first in last weekend's elections, will start exploratory coalition talks with the Social Democrats.
CDU leader Friedrich Merz, who will most likely become Germany's next chancellor, has said he wants a government in place by Easter, on April 20th. A coalition between the Christian Democrats and the third-placed SPD is the only possibility for forming a government, if the parties honor a commitment to not govern with the far-right Alternative for Germany, which came second in Sunday's vote. The exploratory talks will involve 9 senior figures from each party. They could lead to more detailed discussions involving working parties for different policy areas that could develop a legislative agenda.
Air, sea, and train transport has been halted across Greece on Friday, and mass demonstrations are planned as tens of thousands are expected to mark the anniversary of a fatal rail disaster that rocked the country 2 years ago. Now, it's exactly what we're seeing on screen right now in Athens, Greece, taking place as we speak. Protesters are out there. There's police officers that we're seeing, authorities clashing with demonstrators. Now, just to get into this story, last year, protesters also clashed with police as they marked 12 months since the crash. 57 people, mostly students, were killed, scores more injured in the head-on collision between a freight service and a passenger train. Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis on Wednesday warned against any violence during the protests. However, if we see what we're seeing right now, it's exactly the opposite is happening. We see demonstrators clashing with authorities. The demonstrations seem to be actually violent. The exact cause of the collision that took place is still unknown. Many of these protesters, what they want is for the Greek government to identify and to punish the culprits. We see there demonstrators holding signs. And that is in Athens, Greece, current demonstrations. And that's all for this edition of World News here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching, and do stay on for more news and features.